Good evening, colleagues. Welcome to our session today. We are going to look at some of the key changes that have been introduced in the competence-based curriculum and just try to examine welcome to our session today. Their implications. We are going to look at some of the key changes that have been introduced in the competence-based curriculum and just try to examine. Welcome to our session today. Their implications. We are going to look at some of the key changes that have been introduced in the competence-based curriculum. Just try to examine. Welcome to our I'm your presenter, George Kanyama. I will run through the presentation for some minutes, and then afterwards we can go through the question and answer session. As we may be aware, and I think we should all be aware, that the country has introduced a revised curriculum, which is called the 2023 Zambia Education Curriculum Framework, that has been under development from 2022, and it's finally in effect, effective this year, 2025. And the first classes to start taking that curriculum will be opening on the 10th of August. And so, as guided by the Education Policy 2023, there is a new education policy. I'm sure most of us are aware of the 1996 education policy called Educating Our Future. Now there is one called Education for Sustainability. I think government printers are still working on it. And so it is from that policy that the curriculum development process was drawn. And so the change, as you may be aware, previously we had, of course, 3 years of preschool, as was the case, but we have had 7 years of primary school, and then we have had 5 years of secondary school. The new system has changed now to 3642. That means 3 preschool years, starting from 3 years. So 3 years, when the child turns 3 years, some can take even before. So the child will be in baby class, and then they go to middle class, then there is reception. Then primary from grade 1 to 6. Secondary has 2 parts now: ordinary level, which is 4 years, from Form 1 to Form 4, and 2 years of A level, that is Form 5 and 6. And so these changes have come to stay, and they have depended on a few things, as we are going to discover. Okay, so at each level, there will be transitional assessments in order to examine the acquisition of competences. If a child has not acquired the competencies that are desired, the school will have to discuss with the parents and make decisions for interventions. At primary school, at the end of upper primary, grade 6, there'll be an exam, which will be set by ECZ, just like the current grade 7 exams. And that will be a qualifying exam to go to secondary school. And then in the 4 years of ordinary secondary level, there'll be school-based assessments, and then we'll have exams at the end of Form 4. And then there'll be A-level, which will also have some school-based assessments, but also with an exam. And so each level, as it goes, those that write the grade 6 exams, which are primary school leaving examinations, are qualifying to go to Form 1, secondary O level. And then for the learners who write at the Form 4 level, they are qualifying to go to A level. And those that write at A level, they're qualifying to go to university. Okay. So now, what are the changes at early childhood level? The major change here is that one, the language of instruction has changed from teaching in a familiar language, as it is in the outcome-based curriculum, to now English language. So the teaching will be done starting 10th February. The learners will be learning in English, all the subjects. Of course, there will be allowable levels of code switching into the local language. And then there'll be the number of learning areas has reduced. And then there'll be monitoring and assessment. So previously, primarily, we have had from grade 1 to grade 6, as I said, to grade 7. Now it's grade 1 to grade 6. Now, lower primary was from grade 1 to grade 4. Now it will be from grade 1 to grade 3. And then grade 4 to grade 6, that is upper primary. Now, just like ECE, the lower primary level will have only 3 learning areas. Previously, there have been 5. So there'll just be literacy and language, which will include, in here, they will learn English language and Zambian language. And then there will be mathematics, and then creative and technology studies. So these are the only learning areas for the lower primary and ECE. Again, language of instruction here has changed from local familiar language to English language. Then we have the upper primary. Here, the major changes are just the years. So the years now have moved from grade 4 to 5 to grade 7. Now it's 4 to 6. So here there'll be 8 subjects offered, but the learner will be only allowed to take 7. So the compulsory ones are English language or sign language, depending on the ability of the child, the Zambian language, mathematics, science, social studies, technology. Then the last 2, expressive arts and home economics. This is where the learners will have to choose one of the 2 in order to make 7. Going forward, here, like it has been in the past 2 years or so, there'll be no automatic progression, and I'm sure even this year, no automatic progression from grade 6 to Form 1. And then the schooling years have reduced from 7 to 6 years. Then career pathways are defined as they go to secondary. In terms of the learners with special education needs and disabilities, if you notice there is either English language or sign language. So those who have to, they have to be, okay, they find that they have to.
Sorry to throw you over with the date today, but look, I have everyone's favorite fruit.
Sorry about that. Okay. All right. So, okay. So I was saying the learners with special needs will be attended to depending on their severity and the nature of disability. Majority of them shall be integrated into the mainstream, and then there will be some interventions to help them with their daily living in terms of assistance. So those that cannot fit into the mainstream will continue learning from special schools. So the changes here are that one, for all learners that are visually impaired, Braille will be compulsory. And then those that are with hearing impairments, sign language will be compulsory. And then the syllabus will be adapted for maths and science so that there's inclusion of signs as well as especially Braille components to enable them learn. Then those with intellectual disabilities will be introduced after level 3. And then others that we have intellectual disabilities but can't go to certain levels, there will be trade institutions to look after them. Secondary education, as you have said, normal junior secondary school, and then in the O-level and the A-level system. So we have an introduction of A-levels here, abolishment of junior secondary. Key changes, learners will take minimum of 6 subjects and then a maximum of 7. There's someone who needs to mute the microphone, please. And then we have also learners who have 7 subjects, like we said, except for natural science, career pathway, as well as HE. Those who have 8, as you will discover, especially when as the ministry continues with the orientations. Then we have pathways. We have continued with the pathways the way they have been, the 8 of them, the way they have been in the outcome-based curriculum. So their academic pathways are just 3: natural science career pathway, the business and finance, as well as social sciences. Then the vocationals, agric, home economics and hospitality, technology, physical education and sport, as well as performing and expressive arts. These will continue as they have been. And then at the A level, from 5 and 6, this one is a new level that has been introduced. The idea is to bridge the gap between ordinary level and tertiary education. So this is called the pre-university. And the aim is to develop for every learner's critical thinking, analytical, just to prepare for university. It's like first year of university on to secondary school. Here, for you to teach this level, you need to have a degree. You need to have a bachelor's degree. Of course, the universities have protested. We'll see how that goes. They believe that if they are to shed off their first year, learners in this area, in all subject areas, should be taught, especially maybe from 5 and 6, should be taught by people who hold master's degrees. But that is the conversation they are having. I'm sure if there will be, as things stand, as the policy documents stand, as long as you have a degree in a specialized area, you can teach the A levels. Okay. And then for a child to enter into A levels, they must have 3 credits or better in the intended area career pathway. And then here they'll take only 3 to maximum of 4 subjects at A level. These combinations, I think, have already been established. Okay, so in terms of assessment, there will be various methods. Of course, in terms of school-based assessments, projects, research, experiments, assignments, and social reports. But ultimately, at the end of the 2-year course, learners will be assessed by ECZ. There's another one area that has been introduced, which we can use also to guide people in the communities. Number 1, the adult literacy. So this one, they are also known as adult literacy education. It has 2 options. So when someone enrolls for this program, there are 2 options. The first option is if one wants to enter the core education stream at grade 4. So they start learning what the children learn, but the adults, the usual, the sounds, the what from grade 1 to grade 3, lower primary. Then when they reach grade 4, they rejoin the mainstream to upper secondary, to upper primary. They start taking those many subjects. And then there's also this option 2, which is for those that are only interested in acquiring vocational skills so that they can go to a trade school and so on. So these will also be learning creative and technology studies. That is in option 1. And they will be progressing. So they also have financial literacy, and there will be increased contact time for adults. So this is under open and distance education. In terms of tertiary, at the colleges of education here, they will offer pre-service and in-service teacher training. And they'll offer only these 3 programs: the early childhood teacher education course, primary and secondary teacher education course. And these will be certified by ECZ. Okay. The major changes here: 1, there will be no distance education for pre-service teachers, those that are training to be teachers for the first time, whether you are an adult or straight from school, or even if you went through the adult literacy program where you are under young adult, then you entered the ministry. As you are direct from school, you are training to be a teacher for the first time. There will be no distance education. You have to do full time. Only those that are in service will be given leeway to start. If we are upgrading from primary to secondary diploma or whatever, you can do in service. Okay. Degrees would only be a preserve of the universities. And then school experience or teaching practice as we know it shall be for a school term, full school term for 3 years. Those that are in 3rd year of training. Okay. The course shall, so for those who successfully complete the primary teacher education course, they'll teach grade 1 to grade 6. And those that will do the ECE, they'll teach from preschool, the 3 preschool levels, and then those that get degrees will be qualified to teach from Form 1 to Form 6. Then diploma holders, you teach Form 1 to Form 2. That is secondary school diploma holders. This is the roadmap for, I think this is what has brought a little bit of confusion. People are still uncertain. The implementation plan is as follows. So this year, 2025, at ECE level, what we are implementing this year is baby class, so the first year of preschool, not the middle class and the reception. Those will be coming on as the years come by. So next year we'll go into the ministry will guide, if we go into both baby class and reception, but I doubt. I think the ECE1, the level 1, the first year of ECE will be implemented this year, and then grade 1 this year, and and Form 1 also this year. Then next year we'll have the adult literacy will start, as well as grade 2. So the grade 1s who will enter this year will be in grade 2 next year. And then the grade 3s for this year, next year, 2026, they'll be in 4th grade. And those who take will start now the 4th grade, that is upper primary course under the new curriculum. And the Form 2, of course, the Form 1s for this year, next year will be in Form 2. And then in 2027, the grade 3s will be introduced. So it's a phased way. And then the grade 5s, and then also the Form 3s. Again, 2026, we'll start the A levels, year 1. And also that's when we'll start the first year for tertiary. Then in 2027, grade 3, grade 5, Form 3, Form 6, that is year 2 of A level, and then in tertiary, year 2. And this tertiary here, year 1, year 2, year 3, is for diploma holders and mostly under teacher education. And then the others, in terms of degrees, they'll start the degree program that requires A levels in 2028, after we have had the first group of A levels leaving school in 2027. In 2028, as we can see, there is Form 4, the grade 6 and Form 4. That means that will be the first year the grade 6 exam will be written in 2028. It will also be the first year the the Form 4 exam will be written. And when it comes to the current curriculum, it will be the last year, the grade 7 exam will be written. And so for those that are in grade 4 this year, they'll write their grade 7 exam in 2028, which will be the last cohort of grade 7. And also the grade exam will be written for the last time. That is those that are in grade 9 this year, there will be the last grade 12s in 2028. Okay. We try to bring it home now. The syllabus for Zambian languages. Okay. So here, since we have, we'll be no longer teaching in Zambian language, the syllabus for Zambian language has been adjusted a little bit. So we have for pre and primary, we'll have literacy in Zambian language. And then for upper primary, we'll have the Zambian languages syllabus, as well as for ordinary level. When we go to ordinary level for secondary, we'll have Zambian languages as well as the literature in Zambian languages. So the Zambian language we have been doing has been split. The language part has been put on its own and the literature part on its own and different subjects. So the syllabi for this has also been developed at A level, Zambian language and the literature in Zambian languages. These two have syllabi at the. And then, in terms of methodology for the early childhood, the recommended approach is that we should teach literacy skills, phonological and phonetic awareness, that is phonetics, vocabulary, listening comprehension, pre-reading, and pre-writing. These are the areas of center to center on in the early childhood. And so the teaching strategies or techniques, it's gradual release model. Those that teach primary, they understand what this means. So you start by demonstrating the activity as a teacher, then you do the activity with the learners, and then finally you let the learners do it on their own independently. So using the I do, we do, and then you do model. Okay. Then we have other strategies that will be used. Okay. Then this is in the Zambian languages also, in terms of time allocation, at preschool and it will have 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 30 minutes per week, which is 5 periods of 30 minutes. And then this time will be used for pre-literacy lesson, which will be 30 minutes. Okay. Here, frequency of the lessons as opposed to longer durations. So you teach frequently and not once for a long time. In terms of sound system, letter sounds are the ones that are to be focused on. And you start with the single letters. They are the ones that you start teaching. Okay. And in the syllabus, you will find the letters, the way they have been sequenced for them to be taught. So phonological and phonemic awareness are key at this level. Then simple oral words, that is vowel consonant and consonant vowels, like that, like Isa, Leka, those simple words that are formed. And then you target only these areas, listening and speaking, pre-reading and pre-writing. That's all. Learners who should listen and then recall and answer questions. They should know how to read some sounds and some letters, and then how to write. That's when the tracing and so on start. In terms of primary, these will be taught in form of subjects according to the locality. This is the 7 Zambian languages. And the focus is literacy skills, okay? And some language aspects have been integrated there. Okay. Then in terms of methodology for primary, the focus is also the same methodology as at ECE. Time allocation, this one is 5 hours, 30 minutes per week. That means 11 periods of 30 minutes each. That is the time allocated to literacy. And then a literacy lesson shall not exceed executed in 1 hour, 2 periods. So for literacy, you use 1 hour. Then for these other language areas, phonetics and phonemes, you use 30 minutes. Okay. When transitioning from ECE to grade 1, there'll be serious issues there. The teacher will have to be tactful to make sure that the learners have done the pre-reading, pre-writing, and so these same activities they were doing in preschool. So you are building from known to unknown. Then letter sounds here you increase. You start with single sounds again, then you go to vowels, consonants, and then you go to syllables. So you build the way we have been taught. And from single sounds, then you go to clusters, consonant clusters, and then you build on like that. Then, okay, so there will be standardized assessments, which will be conducted in week 5 and week 10. Well, end of term assessments will be prepared by the teacher. Okay. The components, like I have said, listening for the upper primary. These ones, the syllabus has listening and speaking, reading, vocabulary, comprehension, and writing. So there is an advancement here. We are advancing with as we go to primary. Okay. In terms of teaching and learning materials, and this is the question that is begging answers from a lot of people. CDC has already embarked on the development of what they're calling modules. So it is indeed a requirement that for people to deliver the curriculum properly, there is need for these teaching and learning materials. At the moment, these are not there, and it is understandable. They are not currently available, but efforts are being made to develop these. So, as a result, as teachers, we have to be innovative. There will be materials that include textbooks that will be prescribed and supplementary materials, as well as online materials that the ministry will develop. Before these prescribed materials come, there is a lot of adaptation that is required from us as teachers. And so we have to do a lot of mapping and collection of standards. Okay, so ECZ is CDC is developing modules which will be used as we open on 10th. These are the ones that will be, if you listened to the director CDC last week or so, there will be, at the moment, the CDC are developing modules for ECE, baby class, for grade 1 and Form 1. These are the ones that will be used to kickstart the new curriculum on 10th of February. So they will give us guidance on how to handle the competence-based syllabus. But once the textbooks are there, then they'll be distributed to schools. How we'll teach this? So we'll use a variety of interactive learning approaches. We'll also be required to respect different learning styles of the learners, individualized. I know, big classrooms. Okay, we have to be very learner-centered, flexible in learning pathways. We have to be flexible as schools. And then we should also recognize prior knowledge of the learners. We use a lot of a variety of assessment approaches and methods. We require a lot of creativity as teachers by, when you are teaching the learners, in order to develop their competences. We should also have a lot of community involvement. Identify local professionals that can demonstrate skills in front of the learners. If you're teaching article writing, invite a journalist from your district. I think every district has a niece. If it is closer to your school, you invite such a one to come and make a presentation or demonstrate how they write articles. And then we should also utilize everyday common materials, bottles, sticks, fabrics, whatever, and televisions if we have, everyday materials that we use. Also use the edutainment apps, interactive applications and videos like YouTube and visual learning, and also storyboards. Let learners create stories, presentations by animations or using stickers and whatever to explain their own understanding. We are also required to use project-based teaching and learning. We give learners projects to do in groups or in pairs, to design something, to write something, to bring to the classrooms. We also use the inquiry-based tasks where you ask them to go and solve problems. How do we do this? How do we do that? How do we do? They identify problems within the school, within the community, and then you give them a task to go and find answers and solutions. The activities should be engaging, hands-on. We should use a lot of, like for language, we have to use a lot of interactive activities. And I think while individual work is important, but because language is social and interactive in nature, a lot of interactions will be required in terms of things like role plays and simulations. And then even outdoor learning, you go on study tours, you go to a TV studio, you go to a radio studio, you go to a newspaper printing area, you go to the post office, you go to various places to provide authentic learning scenarios for the learners. When they're creating stories that teach values, history, and language skills, you have to ask the learners to create stories just using simple and available tools. Presentations, asking learners to share their own stories, or even they go and read a chapter in a novel, they go and then they come back and make their own presentation for the friends or in front of the friends. Group challenges, competitions. This is where the fair arrangement comes. You can have a mini fair with the presentations, with quizzes, with puzzles, things that help the learners get motivated to solve problems. Also, peer teaching. You assign learners to teach parts of the lesson to the classroom. This is also very good. Okay. So it also requires us to set high standards for the learners. We must communicate these expectations to our learners, especially the expected standards. Then we have to be consistent in demanding the learners to show and demonstrate the compliance to these standards. We treat all the learners equally and fairly, convey and show that you have confidence in them, and also set individualized goals based on the weaknesses. The questions should not be the ones that say yes or no, but those that require learners to explain and demonstrate their language skills. Provide continuous feedback. So here we'll be requiring things like recording recording devices, and so on, so that you can review with the learners. They provide peer feedback as well as feedback from you as a teacher. Then engage the learners in informal discussions to gauge understanding. Sometimes don't be too formal. Okay. Sing with them, play games, and do means assignments. In terms of assessment, you monitor how learners perform during activities, portfolios. Sometimes you can use portfolios. The learners build them over time, and then you assess their progress. You can also use demonstrations, like we have said. They demonstrate understanding of certain concepts through performance or models. In the teaching of language, English language, for example, our goal is to help learners consolidate the 4 language skills, that is listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So these should be consolidated. We are building from ECE to Form 6. We are supposed to consolidate these skills. We build slowly from the young age, starting with the sounds, the letters, single letters. We build to clusters, words, then we go into deeper texts. And so we focus on learning, for example, at primary, learning to read, while at upper and secondary, we focus on reading to learn or reading to understand. In the lower, they are learning how to read, how to pronounce words, how to mark their speed, how to punctuate in their reading, and so on. Whereas the rest, we are not teaching them how to read, but we are teaching them reading. And I think at some point, director standards said our teachers do not know the difference between teaching reading and teaching how to read. As a result, we find ourselves at secondary trying to teach learners how to read. So the components are, as put in this graph here, at ECE, listening and speaking, pre-reading, pre-writing. The same for lower primary, listening and speaking, reading and writing. Then here, listening and speaking, reading, writing, and structure. So upper primary, we introduce the structure, the parts of speech, the punctuations, and so on. We introduce the structures. And in secondary, we enhance these skills and expand the structures in terms of complexity, and then we introduce summary as well. Okay, time allocation, ECE, 2 hours, 30 minutes in a week. For lower primary, 5 hours, 30 minutes. Upper primary, 4 hours, 6 periods, the same as in secondary. Okay, in terms of methodology, ECE, we have 3 P's: strategy, that is present, practice, and produce. Then we have phonics-based approach, pre-reading, and pre-writing. For lower primary, we use the same method, present, practice, and produce. Then the same as. Then for upper primary and the secondary, we're using the communicative language approach. So we use task-based learning and teaching, language teaching. Then that is for upper primary. Then for secondary, we have all these methods. Okay, so for the CBC, or competence-based teaching, in terms of language, we want the aim is for the learners to develop their ability to communicate effectively and confidently, both orally and in writing. So we have to continue orienting each other as we implement CBC in order to improve learners' abilities in language. In terms of lesson planning, it is a requirement that we are confident as trained teachers so that we facilitate a competence-based lesson. We must plan clearly by including the specific competencies as provided for in the syllabus. And then we use correct teaching and learning resources to facilitate these same lessons, and also use effective and interactive methodology. We should refer to the curriculum framework. I think it has the methodology, but mostly it's the syllabus. The implementation guide of 2013 also has these interactive activities. We should also have participatory methods for effective delivery of these lessons. While teacher exposition has been listed as one of the, but let it be as minimal in application as possible. And then we should measure the advantages of using each method in a particular lesson, the techniques that are required, and then promote subjective learning for learner-centeredness. We should also stimulate the learner's interest. Not they say this is hard and then we stop. Then allow for a lot of learner-to-learner interaction. Focus on what to learn as opposed to what to teach. Okay, so these approaches, fair work, I think that have been discussed already, role playing, drama debates, case studies, fieldwork, projects, brainstorming, and storytelling, visits, demonstrations, question and answer, and teacher exposition, which is at the end. In terms of the British Council resources, if you go to the website, teachingenglish.org.uk, I think, you will find online courses. I think I have completed, I think 3 of these. How to teach reading. Actually, you find they are very helpful activities that these guys have. They actually make you try them, and then you can try them in your classroom. How to teach writing, how to teaching communication skills. I found this lesson very, very helpful, especially for you to teach listening, listening and speaking and listening. This course is very, very helpful. For 12 hours, you can finish it at your own pace. It's there, you can enroll, it's free, you are certified at the end of it. And then climate action, I'm yet to start this one in February. I think it's still not yet open. Taking time for classroom research, I found this one very, for us to apply inquiry-based learning, for example, to send our learners to go and research. If we don't have the research skills ourselves, the inquiry skills, it will be impossible and difficult for us to help our learners to perform tasks of research nature. So I found this one very, very helpful, taking time for classroom research. And then also assessing learning. Very helpful course as well. It teaches you, there is assessing learning, assessing to learn, and assessing learning. So the difference between formative and you also find some teaching tools, lesson plan, samples, classroom activities, even activities for various topics can be found there. Okay, so I got most of this material from the CDC materials that they have shared across the training manuals or materials as well as the framework itself. At this point, I would like to thank you all for joining, and we can open the discussion for everyone to contribute. Thank you. Any questions or contributions? You can raise your hand or you can just unmute your microphone and share share your views. Colina, what can you add about the pre and primary aspect?
Good evening, everyone. The pre, I'll skip and talk about primary. For primary, we have seen the local language, the weekly schedules which we had previously. We shall continue with those weekly schedules, and with the weekly schedules, they had focused on mostly used language or words that are frequently used. Those are the ones that it has started with. Then when it comes to English, we have an interactive syllabus, which a teacher can be able to acquire the knowledge there and see how they can be able to apply, because the activities are also indicated there. And when you do not understand the activity, how you can go about it, Google can be able to help you on how these activities can be done in a classroom scenario. Otherwise, it's a good syllabus that we shall be able to have and very interactive. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone from the literature group? What are some of the good or the bad we have observed? So there were concerns that some people said, no, taking.
Good evening, presenter or facilitator, and good evening, everyone. Hello?
Yes, Mr. Kapau, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. I've liked the new curriculum that has been formulated. I just want to find out whether it is a good thing on the other part, where you look at the transitioning of learners right from one up from 4, without any examination in between. Are we not trying to just carry learners who are not really competent? Or maybe there will be other measures that are going to be put in place to ensure that learners who are not performing well are made to repeat. And if repeating a grade is allowed, are there any implications because right now there are some students whom we wanted to repeat at our school who are in grade 8. They were supposed to proceed to, yes, they were supposed to repeat, but they have been made to proceed because we looked at the subjects that were going to be taken in Form 1. It would be a bit different, slightly different from the ones that they are currently taking. So now I'm looking at the period itself from Form 1 up to Form 4. And these are the learners, or these are the students that are going to do their courses. Because as far as I know, the level of Form 4 allows a student to do a course in teaching, as one of the videos that I see, a course in nursing or any diploma course. So looking at the period that you carry a student from, you transition a student from Form 1 without any given exam, won't there be negative implications to our education system? Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Between Form 1 and Form 4, there will be school-based assessment, I think, which will be, right now, school-based assessments are only in practical subjects. But as we implement competence-based curriculum, those will spread to all subject areas. The percentage of which they will count into the final exam, that one will be guided to us by the Examinations Council of Zambia. So the examinations stuff, things to do with the exam, I think, because here we are mostly focusing on competence acquisition. The curriculum is focusing on what learners should do with the material they have learned from the classroom. Not what the learners should know, but what learners should do with the material they have learned. So, even in the current one, when learners start in grade 10, there is no exam until they're in grade 12. So I think the only addition now is just a year in between, from the grade 6 exam to the Form 4 exam. There's just a year that has been added without an exam. And I think it is not so bad. We can focus on developing competencies. At least we have time to, there will be, of course, formative assessments. We will still be having those tests that we are doing, the assignments, the projects that learners will be doing should also count for something. Okay, any other?
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Any other concern? Mr. Tembo, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. Mine was is on strategies used to teach language lessons. As it has been discussed, to say storytelling, drama group discussion, and other interactive methods will be used to enhance engagement and fluency. Now, looking at this approach, I feel this curriculum, it has come at a right way, since the approach will ensure that language teaching, especially in secondary schools in Zambia and in primary schools, will be both inclusive, using two practical languages, which will address practical issues and again on the diverse of linguistic landscape while preparing learners for global perspective, both in local languages and on different languages which are used globally. That's my submission.
Thank you. Do we have any other?
Moderator, I also have another question that I need to pose. When it comes to writing lessons, there was an observation here that when you are presenting your lesson, that part where you used to say pupils should be able to has been removed. There should be a proper way of putting it up so that you are able to realize your objectives. I don't know if that is true, and if it is true, what are we supposed to say there as you put up your lesson?
Okay. The sample lesson plan. Okay. Let me just check. Yeah, learners should be able to, mostly that one was under the, not even the outcome based. Because outcome based, they say learners should. The current one we are using. Excuse me. Okay. So now we are putting competencies. We are putting specific competencies where we used to put whether it's objectives or outcomes. And I think this one follows the same as the outcome based. Learners should. So you are putting the specific competencies learners should demonstrate or should acquire by the end of this lesson. Which competencies are you are they to acquire? So that part of learners should be able to, yes, that one has been removed. And we'll focus on what learners should do with the knowledge or with the knowledge they have acquired. So that is built into what competence are we building in the child. We will have someone, I think, to present on the lesson plans and the schemes of work. So this particular presentation, we decided to just do an overview of the changes, and then we'll have, as weeks come, we'll have people presenting on the weekly forecasts. What should it look like? The scheme of work, what should it look like? And then what about the lesson plan? What are the key elements of the lesson plan that should appear for a competence-based curriculum? I think we'll have a session that will deal with those specifics. Otherwise, yes, there are those changes that we should expect. Mr. Banda, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I've followed the presentation very well, and I've appreciated the fact that the CBC allows or has a provision to use a number of strategies or teaching methods. But I feel as LATAZ, we should not just end there. There's need to have a number of CPDs because quite all right, we have seen this list, but how are teachers going to implement that? So I feel in our districts, provinces, and a number of other areas. I think there's just need for us to orient each other on how best we can implement them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Banda. Yes. So the challenge is to all of us that are in leadership at the school level, at whatever level, we need to go to the nitty-gritties. How do we use, like this particular CPD meeting, we are just focusing on how do we use pair or group work in a competence-based classroom. You just go, someone does a research, and then they come and make a demonstration. You can even use it, you can even do lesson start cycle, for example, on just this particular method. And then role playing. How does it come alive in a classroom scenario? You do serious demos, case study or fieldwork or project. How does brainstorming work? How do buzz groups work? So everything you go method or approach by approach so that everyone in your department, in your school, especially in the department, everyone has a common understanding. Of course, they may apply it differently based on level and class, but they have a basic understanding of each methodology. We will try through this series to see if we can, for the rest of the year, we can bring people who are conversant with methodology. Someone does a session on a particular method. And if you do know how to handle a particular approach on these listed, please come through and let us give you a platform to educate our teachers about how to use that particular method. We'll give you the platform and even make a recording of it and send it on YouTube so that others can watch after some time. Okay, so in terms of subject combinations for for secondary, I know there is a loud cry about literature because it only appears in two career pathways. That is the social science career pathway, as well as the performing and expressive arts pathway. Now, remember, these pathways are meant to train our learners to focus on certain pathways that will form their careers after school. And so, for those that pursue social science career pathways, those that want to become lawyers, HRs, and even teachers, those of us that are focused on social programs, literature is critical for those. And then those that are also focusing on performing arts like music, drama, those that, of course, after school, our country hasn't invested so much in terms of after, for example, after Form 4, a child was doing performing arts. Apart from being an entertainer, a musician or something, or becoming a music teacher, music teacher trained at Even Home, we don't have schools of acting or schools of music that increase not just their talent, but also their the knowledge of the industry. So most of them, so you find Zambian language, literature in Zambian language and literature in English are appearing under that career pathway, because most of our artists sing in local language, and also, but they have learned the art of composing songs from the poetry they did in secondary school. So the subject combinations, I think, have been predetermined, to say the least. And let's see how we go with it, do some research, and then we make recommendations. The government is always willing to listen to us. Okay. If there is no one else to do, to comment or ask a question, I'd like to thank you all for your patience, for your participation, and for your support to this program. Next week we'll have someone else to present on a different topic, and we'll continue doing so for as long as the people need the information. We'll continue highlighting until we are all comfortable and able to use this curriculum well. Please stick to, look out for our adverts as we continue interacting on this platform. Brought to you by LATAZ and the British Council. Have a productive week ahead, and good night.